Have you ever wondered if your child is an emotional eater? And if they are, how can you deal with that? Today, I will share with you the why, how, what method to deal with emotional eating. My name is Bar Isaac, and my goal is to help your kids build a healthy relationship with food. Before we'll talk about it more in depth, let's understand what is emotional eating. Many people are thinking that emotional eating is every time that you're eating when you're sad and you try to comfort yourself. And they're imagining the scene that they're seeing a woman sitting crying in front of the TV and comfort herself with ice cream. It's not emotional eating. We all eating sometimes when we're sad. We all celebrate with food. But if we're doing that once in a while, it's not emotional eating. The problem is when those behaviors happen more and more often, and usually more than once in a week, it's a sign of emotional eating. So here are a few signs of emotional eating. So the first one is if your child coping their emotions with food, when they're sad, when they're stressed, when they had a bad day at school, it's a sign of emotional eating. The second one is if your child sneaking food. Another one is if the child is hiding food from you. If the child feels shame, guilt when they're making the wrong decisions. If your child have craves out of the blue, it's also a sign. If there is too many meltdowns about food when they can't get what they want. If your child eating in unusual times, for example, late at night, it's also a sign of emotional eating. If your child gaining weight rapidly, if your child asking for food very often and you know that there is no chance that they're still hungry, it's also a sign. And if your child eating too much food, they're eating until they're feeling ill, it's also a sign of emotional eating. Now remember, those kind of behavior can indicate emotional eating just if it's happened more than once in a week. Okay, so let's start talk about the method, the why, how, what method to help your child overcome the emotional eating. Let's start with the why, the cause of the emotional eating in children. As a human being, we all try to seek for balance in our life, and many times people creating habits and they're doing things to help them regulate their emotions, and sometimes they're using food to do that. Now, it doesn't have to be a trauma. Even a bad day at school can trigger the emotional eating for your child. There is a reason that they keep doing that. In the end, it's make the person feel good. Now you may wonder, why food? Why my child can't do other things to soothe their needs? It's kind of in a habitual pattern. Your child did it over and over again, and the result, the emotional reward, was always the same. It was so consistent. So what happened when something is consistent and make your child feel good over and over again? It will be their go-to because they know exactly how it's going to make them feel. Now the second step is the how, to find a better way to soothe our child's emotional need. Now, if there is one thing that can help your child regulate their emotion more than food, is the parent. You need to show your child that you're consistent with the time that you're helping them regulate their emotions. Now, what's so great about that? That every time that you're helping your child self-regulate their emotion and to figure out where does it coming from, how they feel, what's going on, and that everything is just fine. You're creating a new pathways in their minds, and it's make them realize that there is other way to soothe their needs, and food doesn't have to be their go-to. Now remember, a child that is more emotionally balanced automatically will crave less for food. So how can you do that? You simply need to show up. The last step is the what. The goal is simply to create more awareness to how they feel, because in the end, if you just sidestep the emotion, they will show up later on during the day. So it's not really solving the problem. What you really want to do is to create this kind of interruption. So how can you do that? Even by just taking a 10 big breath can make all the difference, because at the moment that you're taking 10 big breaths, what simply happens? You're creating interruption between the trigger and the action, and it's creating this kind of space between those things, and the result of that that it's not impulsive eating. It's become a conscious eating because your child didn't made this action. Every single time that your child don't do the action right away, it's creating new pathways in their minds. They're telling them, okay, maybe there is other way. Maybe I can do something else. And simply what it's doing, it's helping them take the control back. I'm always like to say, we can eat whatever we want. Just don't let those emotions and habits eat the food.